Jai Shri Radhe. Sab Vaishnav Jai Shri Krishna. Continuing with the biographies of the 252 Vaishnavas. Varta 113. The story of Tansen Brahmin, the Emperor's singer from Gwalior. Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Rajasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Deepa, who is Sri Thakurji's very close personal friend. He manifests from Mansukha and is therefore a form of his divine, loving sentiment. Tansen was born into a Brahmin family in Gwalior. When he was only 5, he began to study music with one Muslim, who was very adept in singing. Tansen soon began to sing very beautifully. He then began to worship Saraswati, the goddess of speech and music. She was pleased with him and offered him a boon. He requested that he might reach perfection in his study of raga, and she granted him such favour. She then disappeared. After this, Tansen used to sing so beautifully that even deer would run to him. Once he came to Delhi, he approached the emperor and sang to him. The emperor was so impressed that he gave him a mass of wealth. He requested Tansen to stay with him and told him he would put him on a salary. From that day onwards, Tansen resided with the emperor, and he would regularly attend court and sing to the emperor. After this, Tansen became very well known, and many great singers would come to him. Kings and saints respected him so much. Knowing him to be the emperor's court singer, many also brought monetary gifts for him. He became widely renowned. Part 1. Once on a hot day in summer, Sri Gosaiji was sitting on Govind Ghat. Govind Swami and other accomplished Vaishnavas were sitting with him. Tansen arrived there with a wish to sing to King Gosaiji. Sri Gosaiji asked him to sing something about the Lord's Leela, and Tansen sang Pad Rag Lach Saka. If there is some great quality in the stronghold of your heart, then please shed light upon it. Please apply your voice to fill the 7 notes of the scale, the 3 octaves and the 21 musical modulations, plus whatever other notes you can. If you can summon deer, make rain fall and fall at her feet, then Saraswati will bless you. Now the poet Tansen says, "Listen up, you artists. If you have such qualities, then I shall fall at your feet." In recognition of the fact that Tansen was the emperor's singer, Sri Gosaiji gave him 500 rupees. He put a shell together with the coins. Tansen asked him, "O Maharaj, why did you give me the shell?" Sri Gosaiji replied, "O Tansen, you are the emperor's court singer, so I gave you the 500. After hearing your voice and composition, I gave you the shell." Tansen piped up, "O Maharaj, if you can show me a better singer, then I will have to agree that you gave me the right payment. Otherwise, how can I agree with it?" Sri Gosaiji just smiled at Govinda Swami and said, "O Govinda Das, please will you now sing something?" He began to sing, first praising his guru. Rag Sarang. It is impossible to aptly describe the incomparably fine form of Sri Gosaiji, son of Sri Vallabh. He is the highest bliss personified. He lives in Gokul and brings great joy to the whole world. To those whom he considers his own, he gives devotional liberation and showers them with vast amounts of grace and love. He is full of joy and he is bliss incarnate. How can my one tongue, possibly describe the joy that he gives? The poet Govinda now sings, "I surrender to him over and over." He followed up with this, a poem about the beloved Lord. Rag Saranga. Listen, dear lady friend, that very hot summer afternoon I was sitting by the window, threading a flower garland. Suddenly Sri Krishna, son of Nanda, turned up there, glanced up at me and threw a pebble in my direction. Fearful of my elders, I felt shy, stood up and turned my face away. Then sings the poet Govinda Das, "The beloved Lord, the supreme appreciator of divine loving mood, stretched his arms open as if to embrace me, thus signalling me to go and meet him." When he heard this pad, Tansen was stunned. He stood up in front of Sri Gosaiji with his hands folded and said, "O Maharaj, in front of this song, my piece appears as sacking compared to the softest muslin." Tansen then approached Govind Swami and supplicated, "Please teach me how to sing like this." Govind Swami replied, "I do not discuss such things with anyone who is not a disciple of Sri Gosaiji." Tansen next approached Sri Gosaiji and requested him to accept him as a disciple. Sri Gosaiji granted Tansen initiation with the Lord's name. Tansen donated 1,000 golden coins to him and supplicated, "O Maharaj, please ask Govind Swami if he would be willing to teach me more about singing." Sri Gosaiji asked Govind Swami to do so. Tansen stayed with Govind Swami for some days and learned the manner of singing the Lord's praise according to the ways of the path of grace. Then, with Sri Gosaiji's permission, he began to sing before Srinathji. Tansen would sit and sing to Srinathji, and he was very happy to listen. Tansen had a habit of drinking alcohol, and his mouth was always smelly. One day, when Tansen was singing to Srinathji, one Vaishnava who was present scolded him, "You should not drink before singing. You have bad breath. That cannot be pleasing to Srinathji." The next day, Tansen did not have his usual drink. At the lunchtime services, Tansen started to sing, but not at all as nicely as usual. At that time, Sri Gosaiji was showing Srinathji the mirror, and the Lord mentioned to him, "Today, Tansen's singing was very boring. Tansen does not sing nicely. Please tell him to improve his songs." Sri Gosaiji asked of Tansen, "Why was your singing so bland today?" Tansen admitted, "Oh Maharaj, today I have not had my usual tipple, because one Vaishnava told me that I have a smelly mouth. Because of it, he told me not to drink." Sri Gosaiji commanded, "Listen, please do as you did before, then Sri Govardhanathji will be pleased." Tansen began to take his drink as before, and his singing once again became beautiful. Sri Govardhanathji smiled when he heard it. Tansen had the holy sight of Sri Govardhanathji's smile. Bhav Prakash. The moral of this story is that a devotee on the path of grace should do only that which pleases the Lord at all times. That is the true way of this path. Thus concludes Varta 113, the story of Tansen, an accomplished Vaishnava and the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace. There is no real end to his tale. Continuing to Varta 114, the story of one merchant from Rajnagar, Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Sattvic disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Snehalata, who is the niece of Mansukha the cowherd. Thus she is a form of his divine loving sentiment. He was born into a wealthy merchant's family in Rajnagar. His father was a broker and worked on commission. When he was 20, he was married, and sometime later his parents died. He then also began to trade. He had inherited savings of 99,000 rupees, but he was very greedy, and his only wish was to have 100,000. He was always collecting money and was miserly in providing supplies for his household. If he earned 12 annas, he would save 8 and live on the 4 only. After quite some time, Sri Gosaiji came to Rajnagar and stayed at Asurava, in the home of Bhailakotari. At that time, the merchant had come to see Bhailakotari for some purpose, and he had the sight of Sri Gosaiji. He asked Bhailakotari who he was, what was his name, and where he had come from. Bhailakotari told him, "That is Sri Gosaiji, and he is the Lord himself. He is the king of Gokul, and his name is Sri Vittalnathji. We are all his disciples." The merchant piped up, "I would like to become his disciple too." Bhailakotari then supplicated Sri Gosaiji, "O Maharaj, this merchant wishes to become your disciple." Sri Gosaiji looked at the merchant and smiled. The merchant requested, "O Maharaj, please accept me as your Lord's disciple." As your disciple. Sri Gosaiji initiated him with the Lord's name. The merchant returned home. The next day he brought his wife to Sri Gosaiji for initiation too, and thereafter Sri Gosaiji travelled on to Dwarka. Aaj ke Anand ki jai, pausing here until tomorrow. So Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.